Well, guys, welcome to the cinematography classroom. You will be seeing some changes from now on. We have begun the second quarter. Welcome to the second quarter. First quarter is over. And one of the things that characterized the first quarter was how much Mr. Soto spoke and how little you did. That's going to be flipped on its head. Now Mr. Soto is going to be talking less, and you guys are going to be doing more because you know that from the get go, I've been telling you that your guys are going to be doing movies. That's what we're here for, right? Very soon we have some announcements. We're going to be uploading some stuff to our channel because you know that we have a channel, don't you? Um, so before we talk about something that has to do with the second quarter, I want to quickly gather your reactions about something we did on the last week, which was the end of the first quarter. You guys were exposed to the experience of watching silent movies for the first time. I'm assuming it's the first time because that's what you communicated to me, that you had never seen a silent film. Um, what was it like seeing a silent film? I need your feedback. What, Mrs. Escobar, tell me. What? You enjoyed it. Had you ever seen anything like that before? No. Who else? What? In what way? Okay, it was different, but my question is, in what way? If you're saying it's different, because you're comparing it with other movies, right? So, in what way was it different? Obviously, it was different in the sense that in the type of movies that you guys see, you have people talking. That's not what you had in this movie, right? So, how was it different? So, you think that they were like more expressive because we could not hear them? Is that what you're saying? Okay, I would agree with you. Yeah, I would agree with you. Um, which of the two movies did you guys enjoy the most? The first one was titled Modern Times, and the second one was an action movie called The Mark of the Zorro. Which one did you like more? You like the second one more? Okay. How many of you how many of you enjoyed the first one more? Modern Times. Okay. How many of you enjoyed Mark of the Zorro more? Oh, okay. I'm rather more fond of the first one, of Modern Times. Even though I like action, uh, I think that Modern Times is a better movie. At least I enjoyed it more. But both are very famous movies. Both are in the National Archives. They have a lot of historical significance in the world of cinematography. And the United States Congress has made sure that these films are preserved for posterity, right? Um, so you guys were exposed to pieces of history. As you know, the first one was the last appearance of the Tramp by Charlie Chaplin. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. You were supposed to not only watch them, but you were supposed to answer 7 questions for each of the movies and send that as an assessment for your portfolio, which you're supposed to send to my email instead of uploading because it's portfolio. So I'm glad you guys did that. You will not be seeing this portfolio grade this quarter because it belongs to it's going to belong to this quarter, right? To the second one. One thing that you should have noticed was how the movies, because they lack dialogue, are told more visually than you're used to, right? How the use of visual language is more prevalent and more predominant than in modern movies where you have people talking and giving a lot of exposition so we can understand what's going on. The challenge of making a silent film is that you have to use exclusively visual language and captions so people can read the captions so they can understand the movie a little bit better. But mostly it's visual language that's being used here, camera angles, camera movement, the composition of the shots, and all that, and the acting, of course. So, guys, the time for you to start collaborating and working together in teams has arrived. This quarter, this semester, you will be working more closely. And one of the things that we did in our last meeting was that we chose leaders. And let me see who the leaders are in this team. The leaders that we selected were Miss Lilimar Lebron. Are you there, Miss Lebron? You're a leader. And the other person is Gustavo Perez Ramos. Are you there, Gustavo? Yeah, and the other person is not here. Yes, sir. What? It's good to have you here because I didn't have you here last week and I wanted to ask you something. Would you? I was thinking in people from this group to assume positions of leadership, of being team leaders. And one of the people that I thought was about you. So, my question to you is if you would accept an offer of assuming a position of leadership in this group, is that a yes or yes? Okay, remember that a yes for me is something that you carry with you to your tomb. You cannot back away from it. Once you say yes, you're trapped, sir. You're mine. Ha ha ha. Great. Thank you, sir. So, you know what? I just offered you more work because, as you know, leaders have to work more. However, being in a position of leadership has many, many, many advantages and gifts. And that's what I'm offering to you. The experience, an experience that will be invaluable, an experience that will help shape you into becoming a better person and maybe in the future a better leader. So, welcome to the club. You have other two peers. The other two leaders are Ms. Lilimar Lebron and Mr. Gustavo Perez. So, guys, let's give a round of applause to our three leaders. Eh? Okay, these are our leaders. Okay, and they have more work than anyone, and they're going to be making sure they're going to be on top of you, making sure that you guys are turning in your work. Because if not, then the rest of the team might get affected, and you don't want to be the one that is pulling your team down instead of lifting your team up, right? One of the things that I need you to do starting today, and I'm talking to everyone who is here, to all of you, I'm going to need you guys to start thinking and what is it that you see yourself doing in this class as a team member? Because I want the team members, I want the teams, I'm sorry, to be as equal as possible. I want as much skill and as much talent to be spread aboard as possible. I don't want like one team that has like all the people that do this and another team that has all the people that does that because that's not going to work for anyone. We need teams that have a variety of people with a variety of skills so you guys can contribute your skills to your team and lift your team up. And I'm asking you, what are you interested in? And I'm asking you what you know. Because what you don't know, you're going to have to learn. You're here to learn. We're all going to learn. I'm learning all the time. You have no idea of how many things I've had to learn in the last 2 months. Things I never thought I would see myself doing. So, learning never stops. And not knowing something should not keep you from doing something. Because where there's a will, there's a way. You guys love doing stuff that nobody taught you how to do. You know what I'm talking about. There's stuff that you said, no, I have to learn how to do this because I gotta. And you didn't go to dad, you didn't go to mom, you didn't go to no one. You took it upon yourself to learn it and you learned it. Well, I'm gonna need you guys to do that too. So let me see. I need to learn this because I gotta do this. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I'm talking from experience. I have bled for movies. I have cried for movies, and I have sweated more than anything. I've sweated tons and buckets of sweat for movies. We do all that, and you encounter problems, and you have to solve them. But you have to make things happen. You have to be a go-getter. That's how filmmaking works. I'm asking you to think about all these things. It's fun because at the end, when you see the end result, it is so wonderful to know that because of all your troubles, you and this group of people that are your buddies now, that's your team, help produce this wonderful project that other people can enjoy. I need you guys to start thinking in what is it that you guys see yourself doing, okay? Because in our next meeting, we're going to start splitting you up into teams. And it's not upon you deciding in what team you're going to belong to. That's up to me to decide who's going with who, okay? So I would love talking with the leaders before we do that. The leaders already might have, since I'm assuming leaders, I'm talking to you now, leaders. Um, do you know most of the people in this group? Mr. Gustavo, you didn't answer. Okay, so you guys have a clear idea of who could be a good actor, who's good with computers so they can edit, who's good with the cat, all that, and I would appreciate your input. That doesn't mean that you are going to decide who's going to be in your team, but your input can help you decide who goes on which team. How did that sound to you? Does it sound like fair? In this lesson, titled Development, we're going to begin talking about that first stage of filmmaking. And a lesson titled Movies 101, I labeled or I laid out the 5 steps that make out this process. And we're going to be looking at each step of that process so you guys can have a clear picture of all the details, everything that is involved in each stage. The first one is development. That's the very first stage. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever planned? You have an idea and you started planning on how to make that idea a reality. From idea to reality. How many of you ever been in a process like that? Not that you were dreaming. There's a difference between, listen carefully, there's a difference between planning and wishful thinking. And many people are experts in wishful thinking. You know, they just sit down, they start daydreaming, and I wish this were real, and they don't move a finger, and they think that it's going to happen just because they're wishing it, because like if they had a genie or something. And that's not how it works. That is not how it works in the real world. If you have an idea and you want that idea to be made a reality, you have to plan and start working at it. Have you ever been in a position like that? Mr. Santiago or Ms. Rosa, could you share with me exactly what, as well, very quickly, but it became a reality. How did it feel to see that idea become something real? Describe the feeling to me. Is it a feeling that you would like to experience again? It's cool, isn't it? When you think about something or you're in a group of people that have an idea and to see that come to fruition, the feeling is undescribable. You use a word brutal, which I think is funny, right? But I think there are words that we can use, but I like that word. I like it. I'll accept it. Who else has gone through an experience like that? Go ahead, Mr. Santiago. What happened? Yes. Okay, and so it was an idea that again became reality. And what's the feeling that you experienced when you saw the result, the end result? Proud. Are those things worth feeling again? Yes, it is. I would agree with you. It's a great feeling to do something with your hands. If you've never done anything like that, you don't know what you're missing. To be in this world and create something from nothing and see it in front of you. What word can we use to describe it? Brutal. But I think it's a good word. It's a great feeling, guys. If you've never felt that, you don't know what you're missing, and that's something I would like for you guys to feel, to experience. Mr. Torres, you were saying? Okay, so I hope that you all get to experience this. Okay, and I will guide you and I will help you through the process. But there are many things that you're gonna have to like bleed, cry, and sweat because that's how it works sometimes. So everything begins with development. What develop? When we talk about development, I told you there are 5 stages of filmmaking. The first one is development. When we talk about development, development is a messy, messy place of ideas where ideas are floating around and you're daydreaming, and you have a certain idea, maybe comes to your head, boom. I don't know how many of you feel like a switch was turned on, and all out of the blue, an idea comes into your mind, and you have to do something with that idea. Development could happen like that, or maybe, like in my case, you guys told me that you're not readers, which for me is a super, super sad thing. But I'm a reader. And one of the things that happens, since I was young, even younger than you, I've been a reader. And I remember when I was your age and older, and I'm reading a novel, I'm reading a book, and I'm reading about these characters, and I'm imagining what that story would look like in a movie. It's like I'm running a movie in my head, just like that. And I'm imagining all these characters. I'm casting them like different actors that I know from movies. And this actor is going to play this character. And I imagine this character looking like this other person. And I'm playing all that in my head, a theater in my head, because that's what it's like for me when I read. I'm reading a book and it's like a theater. So development is very much like that. These producers, these studio executives, they're people that read. They have people also that read for them, and they might read a book and say, wait a minute, I got to make a movie out of this. All these are things that happen during development. It is the birth of an idea. It's not only the birth of an idea, it's also the first steps that you begin taking to take that idea and make it real, make it happen. Seriously. You're not it's not just a little dream. It's a true planification. Wait a minute, I have this idea. I got to make this. This has to become real. It has to. What do I need to do? And then during this step, you start doing things like what? You start like if it's an idea, get someone to write the script, unless you can write it yourself, or maybe it's a book that you read. Well, that book that you read does not belong to you. Maybe you bought the book, but you only have the right to read the book. You don't have the right to do anything else with that book because it's not your intellectual property. Do you understand that? It is the intellectual property of the author or the publisher. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So, can you just grab a book and say, I'm going to make a movie out of this, and that's it? Do you have a right to do that? No, you don't. You don't have the right to do that. So, let's say that this novel is coming out. You read it. Fine, it's fantastic. I got to make something out of this. You have to then purchase that property. You have to contact the publisher or the author and tell them, hey, I want to make a movie out of this. Let's negotiate and let's start throwing uh, different sums of money around to see what sticks. And then you also start like thinking, who can direct this movie? What would be the best possible director to make this movie the way it needs to be made? Or who could star in this movie? Who are the actors that can play the different roles? So in development, you start like thinking about all these things. What is the goal? What is the objective of all this process being greenlit? What does green lit mean? Well, green lit, green light. Where do you see green lights? Traffic lights. And that green light has a meaning. What's the meaning of that green light? Go, go. So when we talk about a movie being green lit, what that means is that the studio is telling the people that want to make this movie, let's call them the producers, go do the movie. And how do you do that? Obviously, not with a street light. To make a movie, you need imagination, you need talent, but there's something else that you need that is green. What would that be? Money. You need money. Or you think movies don't need money? I mean, when you see one of those Avengers movies, uh, how much do you think one of those things cost to make? Hundreds of millions of dollars. Not just millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Those movies are super expensive. I mean, when you talk about hundreds of millions of dollars, the amounts of money are crazy. But otherwise, they could not be made because the amount of people that you have to hire to make those movies is incredible. Have you ever seen the credits at the end? The credits is that list of names of people that drive you crazy at the end. That they keep on going and going, and they look like they're never going to stop. Well, all those people that you see in that list, they helped make that movie. And they were not there, that movie would not exist. Some people think that all you need is the actors. That's it. No. Actually, the people that you need the most are those little names that you see scrolling up little by little. Those are the people that make the movies happen. So movies cost money, and studios greenlight a movie by saying, "Okay, that money that you asked for, there it is. Go make the movie." Because the studios are the one that have the money. Is that clear, guys? Okay. So let's go back a little bit. We were talking about development. And in development, we said that it's a messy place of many ideas that sometimes it's the birth of a movie. It's like the embryo, the fetus, right? It's when it's born, it's conceived at that moment. At that moment, that idea begins taking form. We got to do a movie. Who's going to do the movie? How much is it going to cost? Where are we going to shoot it? All those questions. Who's going to finance this movie? How are we going to make this happen? How are we going to make the scene? We need to make a script? How long should the movie be? All these ideas are floating up there, okay? Trying to coalesce into a reality. Sometimes movies are born and later on they become a movie. Sometimes these movies are not never born. They stay there. They are conceived, but they fizzle out. That happens more than often. In development, many movies will always remain a dream that was never made. Like in the case of this movie here, Spider Man by James Cameron. In the 1990s, James Cameron, the director of movies like Titanic or movies like Avatar, so you know what I'm talking about. This guy, very famous director, one of the most famous directors, he wanted to make Spider Man with who? With a young Leonardo DiCaprio, like you're seeing there. But even as powerful a director as he was and is, the movie died in development. It never happened. They had a cast in mind, they had a script, they had many things, but it was never made. It died in development. And that happens to many, many projects, even to talented people like James Cameron. Sometimes movies are trapped in development for a long time. Sometimes there are ideas that are explored but never become real. There are many properties out there that people have tried to make movies out of. Like, for example, did you ever hear about a video game called Halo? back in the day, like 20 years ago, Halo was super popular. I would say that far more popular than games like Fortnite or Minecraft are today. Seriously. And Halo was all the rage. And they tried to make a movie of Halo. It didn't happen. It never happened, unfortunately. Um, Sometimes movies get trapped in what we call development hell. There are movies that are trapped there in that process and they never prosper. Or there are movies that spend a long time there, years and years and years. Eventually they get made. Eventually. I mean, like sometimes decades later. So development uh, can be a place where you spend a long time, like a prison, or maybe even eternity. That's why development is the longest stage of the filmmaking process. There are movies that spend a long time there, like for example Hancock that you're seeing there. Eventually, it was made. It was not a very good movie, even though it spent a long time in development. Even that is not a guarantee for ending up with a good movie. You've probably seen Hancock, right? These are also movies that are very famous that spend quite a time in development hell. For example, Lawrence of Arabia is always counted among the top 10 best films of all time. And it's a fantastic movie. This one spent a long time in development, very long time. Another movie called The Gangs of New York also spent a long time there. If you saw Avatar or Toy Story, the first one, these are two movies that spent a long time in development hell, but they eventually got made. Fortunately, right, for us, right? Good for us that they were eventually made. So there are other movies that spend some time in development hell. Like for example, Akira. How many of you like anime? Anime, Japanese animation. This movie, Akira, is one of the most famous animes of all time. It came out in the 1980s, and they've been trying ever since to make a movie out of it. And they're still trying to make this movie. Still to this day, it's still in development hell in 2020. And they've been trying for more than 30 years to make it happen. Another movie that is also in development hell is Beetlejuice 2, which will be a sequel to Beetlejuice, another famous horror comedy from the 1980s. And they've been trying to make this movie ever since, and still to this day, they haven't been able to make Beetlejuice 2. Space Jam, if you saw Space Jam, was a famous cartoon from the 1990s when Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player. And they tried and tried and tried, and now it's coming out next year, but with LeBron James instead of Michael Jordan. John Carter is probably the movie that spent the longest time in development hell. It spent like 70 or 80 years. And when it came out, I enjoyed it, but it was not very successful. It kind of failed, but it was quite good. And there's another animated Tom and Jerry feature film that's been planned for the theater for quite a while, like for the last I would say 11 or 12 years. Excuse me, for 10 or 20, 12 or 11 years. But it's finally coming out next year. Okay, sir, you were saying something. Oh, this is not scary. Tom and Jerry. It's not scary. So, guys, that's it for today. Don't forget that we have a reshoot that has to be uploaded. Remember that all reshoots are uploaded. You do not send that as an email. You send this to me when you're done with this. Read the entire lesson. It's important that you read it and watch the videos. And remember that you need to be prepared for um, being assigned to a team in our next meeting. Okay, so we're going to be working with that. And team leaders, I would like to have like an early meeting with you next time. If you can come in 5 minutes early in the next meeting, I would appreciate it so we can have a meeting. Okay, leaders, the three leaders. Okay, so guys, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Take care.